Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. This is Funny Wine Girl, aka Janine Luby. And I am so excited to have a return guest. You know, on my podcast that I often have people that will come back, maybe not so soon after their last appearance, but in this case, and again, you know, every week I say how I know my guests. So this week's guest is Melisse Brunet. And I believe if you listened before, she was on about a little over a month ago. And, I'm friends with someone who is on the board of directors of the Northeastern Pennsylvania Philharmonic here in Northeast PA. I'm based in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And she basically helped me get connected with Melisse. Melisse conducts the Northeast Philharmonic here, but she also conducts in Lexington, Kentucky. She guest teaches all over. And she was also featured in the documentary Maestra, which you may recall, I actually did have the director, Maggie Contreras, on a few weeks ago as well. So this was a film that was executive produced in part by David Letterman. It premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival, and it was on Bingeable. So you would, in fact, it still is, I believe. So if you want to pay to rent it, that's still a wonderful option because you're helping to support a program that supports music education throughout the country, which is fantastic. But for those folks, most folks will find their things on the streaming service Netflix. So it was just released only, I think, last week on Netflix. So now you can go there. So I would suggest you take a break from true crime and murder that we all like to watch and try something positive with Maestra. So I am super excited to once again say bonjour to Melisse Brunet. Hello, ça va?
Bonjour Janine, bonjour tout le monde. Yeah, I'm great. Thanks for having me again.
Oh, of course. I was so excited to have you. After I spoke with you last time, and it was before I was able to watch Maestra. And it was like maybe the week after I watched it. And watching it, I was like, oh, I have so many new questions for her now.
I know you were in touch like immediately. You were, oh my God, I have so many questions.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. But one thing before I forget, last time we spoke, I forgot to ask you this, and this is just a little silly question. So I am a big fan of the comedy Seinfeld. And that was, it's still it was produced years ago, but it's still, in reruns. And that's one of my favorite shows. And one of their episodes, there's a gentleman named Bob Cobb who directs an orchestra. And the joke is it's not a very prestigious orchestra. I think it's like the benevolent cops of Queens, New York or something. And he insists that everyone call him Maestro. So I meant to ask you last time, do you make people call you Maestra?
No, I don't actually. I'm right now in Indiana working with one of the orchestras at the Indiana University. And one of the first things I said after, hello, nice to see you all, it was like, please don't call me Maestro, don't call me Maestra. You can call me Melisse or Mel. It's something that I have never liked. And yeah, no, definitely not with me.
And I kind of figured that would be the answer, but I just had to ask because I'm a dork when it comes to that show. I love it. And of course, the hilariousness of like, really, we have to call him Maestro. Are you
Yeah.
serious?
Yeah.
And that would be more of a man thing.
Yeah, in that context, it's great.
Yeah. So you are before we get into what was in the film right now, just to give a little background for the people, you conduct here in Northeast PA, but as we said last time, these jobs, they're not full time. So you also conduct in Lexington, but you also guest teach. So right now, as we're speaking, you're in Indiana.
Yes, I'm there for a couple of weeks teaching one of their orchestras and the conducting students.
Is this a common thing for you? Do you teach throughout the country quite a bit?
I was in academia for 7 years, and I've always taught. It's been like 25 years or something like that. So I love teaching, and a lot of my colleagues want to invite me to teach, so I just like to share some of my knowledge with the youngest generation and help them getting jobs, because that's what is the most important for me, to help them understanding what the field is and to make them being competitive, and also being sure, or even if they don't want to become a musician, learn skills that you can learn in orchestras that are so very unique, like listening skills, like collaboration, team efforts, all of that, that a lot of big tech companies are very hungry for, like Google would hire a lot of musicians because of their creativity, different ways of thinking, team spirits, work ethics, all of that that you get in music schools.
Yeah, and that's probably not something that we would think of right off the bat. But as you're speaking too, I'm thinking it's a really interesting or similar parallel to comedy improvisation because when you take that, it's all about the teamwork. The whole principle is yes, and you're given something by your fellow actor or player, and what can you do with it, as opposed to saying no and negating it, or yes, but now let me make this mine. And so I think there's a little bit of a parallel there with the listening skills, the team building, how you can work together. I think that's fairly interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and the creativity.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's exciting. Very exciting. And I have a bunch of rewatched Maestra last night. So I had questions and some of them are kind of random, so I don't want to mess up the flow here, but I have to ask some of my random questions in the scene. In one of the scenes you're running, so I wanted to ask you, you had earbuds in that scene, what music do you listen to when you run, and do you still run?
Um, it's been a minute. I have not run actually. I think last time was on treadmills. I used to run a lot. I used to compete track and field 800 meters. Even though my heart was with 400 meters, it's a lot less suffering and a lot more of a show than 800 meters. But I I like to listen depending on my speed, what kind of session I'm doing. I'm gonna find something that is, going with what I'm doing or very unrhythmical than just to open space. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just because as a conductor, I just thought, oh, what kind of music does
Not
Melisse like to listen?
classical.
Not
Don't
classical.
do
Okay.
classical while running. Otherwise, you're just in your head the entire time, and I'm gonna end up under a truck or a car.
Well, and that's true because for you, conducting, that's part of your profession, your passion. So you probably could use a break from that when you're out running too. And you want to be,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get you there. And you said it's been a minute. So I was never a runner when I was in high school or college. I didn't start till I was in, oh gosh, my late 30s. And I did complete, I should say, not compete, in two marathons. I completed those and I did about a dozen or so half marathons. But at 53, I am slowing down. And I hate to say that, but it's more of me. I haven't been as healthy lately. So I haven't been running as much, but I could never get this is my goofy story. Earbuds used to fall out all the time. I never found a perfect pair of earbuds. So I got used to just running with the sound of, nature or traffic or whatever. But if I'm on a treadmill, I need the music because otherwise I am bored to tears.
Oh, oh yeah, yeah. No, I do a lot of running outdoors without earbuds. Actually, I totally get it. But in that case, I was running next to a very heavy trafficy road. And I'm like, no, let's just escape that.
Yes, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay, well, I asked that because I was just curious. So for my own selfishness.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but so let's talk about, so for folks who perhaps did not listen to the last conversation. So Melisse is a Paris native. She became a US citizen last, I believe, February. And this film, Maestra, is a documentary and it follows a group of women. There were, I believe, 200 competitors from 50 different countries competing in this La Maestra competition for female conductors taking place in Paris. It was narrowed down to, in this documentary, they show 14 women, but really the documentary maker, Maggie, chose to really focus on, I believe, just 5 women. And Melisse was one of the 5. So we actually, in the documentary, we see a little bit of the competition. We learn a little bit of your backstory and a couple of other women that are in it. And again, like I said, I have so many questions. Tell me tell me a little bit about that experience for you, about maybe some of your notions before you entered it, and then how you felt afterwards.
Yeah, I had no clue what I was going into. And I don't think I took it very seriously when we got an email from the competition telling us um, there is a movie team from Los Angeles who wants to do a documentary. They are separate from the competition, but if you agree, they will interview you. And I was, okay, whatever. I don't know anything. I love documentaries, but I don't know anything about the film industry, really. So I went into it with absolutely no notion that it would even be serious, that it would even land somewhere, because it sounds a bit, that's not something that happens a lot in your life, right? How many people can say, oh yeah, actually I was featured in a documentary. So, when someone comes to you like that, is like, okay, yeah, let's have fun, whatever. And it actually, the journey throughout those 2 years of, actually, was it 2 years or we are 24? So it was a year and a half, like the journey starting to the release, the world premiere at Tribeca, was so much eye-opening. And for me, it enters the realm of American Dream. One of the things that I've been able to experience in America that are amazing. You don't know it's going to happen to you, but it happens to you because it's America. And things are possible. Things like that are possible. So it's been a wonderful learning experience, a very, very intense and emotional journey, but something that I'm so thankful it happened to me.
Yeah. And so let's talk the documentary covers or observes you but for this competition, La Maestra. Now, this competition, I mean the way it's talked about, it's a very important thing, especially for women because there's such a small amount of female conductors across the world. So this is thought to be, would you say, an opportunity for you to be showcased, for you to gain maybe credibility and to end up getting maybe hired by different, is that what this competition is viewed as?
Yes, I think for all of us who applied, and as you mentioned, a lot of women applied because the winner and eventually the women finalists will have great opportunities for management, for visibility, because it was streamed in entire Europe, and a lot of concerts, directors, things were in the hall as well. And it's a lot of advertising around it, a lot of pictures, opportunities, price. Of course, the cash price of the winner is really good, $20,000. But I think for all of us was mostly the career opportunities, career openings, to have that push that actually is going to bring you on the map. And that's how all of us viewed that competition.
Yeah. And I would say, I mean, I will tell people, I'm going to give a couple spoilers here, but not too much. But I do want to talk about something as far as the conducting side of things and how what is shown in the documentary. And I think I mentioned last time, but it's interesting. Last time I watched it on my laptop. This time, now that it's on Netflix, I watched it on my television, which is much bigger screen. So the opening was much more impactful for me. Like the opening scene is you see the dark screen, but you hear like the screaming, and it's almost like, what the hell is this? And it's you working with your student and teaching her to basically, I believe you said, to take up space. Do you want to share? It's very like it gets your attention, but do you want to share what that means to you, like why you're teaching that and what that really means in the sense of conducting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that scene was a real lesson that I gave that student on that day. And at that stage of her development, she was very square in terms of conducting in a box, and I'm showing here, but it's precise, it's okay, but it's extremely boring. There is no emotion, there is no music, there is nothing really going there. And what I've noticed throughout my career and my life and myself, I was like that for more than a decade in my conducting, very box conducting until I discovered my inner kid. And that at one point in my life when I was small, I was running everywhere, dancing and taking space, using my body in the space. But then through education, family, and school, generally as a lady or girl at that stage, you're being told, be quiet, sit down, listen to them, and for men, and men have different issues with education and things, but men are encouraged in expressing themselves and being like in their body and all of those motions. But for us, it's like very badly seen. And there is a lot of bias against that we do realize or we don't realize. But I'm at a stage in my life when I see all of this. And my goal was really to help that student to explore the space, her body, and her body in the space. And that means totally getting out of your comfort zone. Because generally, what happened to me when I was doing that, like very small gestures, I had the feeling, oh my God, I'm so expressive. It's like in my head, I was doing bomb. But actually, I watched the tape and I'm like that. And that disconnection between what I felt and how I looked required work for me to realize. And that's exactly how that student felt. She felt like, yeah, I'm very expressive and big. And no, so I brought up exercises that I just improvised as we went to make her really uncomfortable. And she was twice uncomfortable because you had a camera on, but she played the game and to explore her voice also, because our voice, goes the air and the body and things. So explore the space and discover a lot of things. And I will say that this lesson, during that lesson, snow started falling outside. That was crazy. And that lesson has really changed her conducting. There was a before and there was an after, with no coming back to the before.
Wow, that's really powerful. And I think I might have even said this last time we talked. I think regardless of what people do for a living or whatever, that seems like it's such a valuable exercise, because I think you had made the point that like as women, like men are not told not to take up. They're allowed to take up space. They're almost expected to take up space, to command, where women are not really expected to do that. And I think regardless of whether you're a conductor, a musician, a comedian, whatever kind of person you are, if you're holding in and not like taking up the space and exploring it, you're probably not living up to your potential or even your joy.
Absolutely. And I would say for any women, not despite whatever job you're doing, um, there is a dichotomy. When I heard stories told about me when I was small, and if each time there was music, I was dancing and everywhere without shame, without guilt, without nothing that I learned later. Then there is a dichotomy, because my joy is in my body too. And I think every woman has that, and just probably, if they want to allow themselves to explore it, get out of their comfort zone with a coach or with a group of friends and do crazy fun things to explore and, find the inner joy, the inner, the language of the body. I think it would be fantastic for all women to explore that.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah. I've taken a couple workshops of somatic movement, somatic embodiment, and there was a lot of like just explore. And I think we need to do that more, because I mean, I dance in my house here, but at 53, I'm not going out to clubs anymore. So I don't dance out in public as much, but I'm reminded it's so much fun when we do that. It's just joyful. It burns calories too.
It does. Yeah, right. You don't need to go run on a treadmill after that. And what's interesting is that Maggie, the movie director who did training as an actress, she told me that one of her acting teachers had her do. Apparently, what I did with that student is something that is done in acting class, which I had no clue because I never took acting. But for her, it was very touching to see it because it's a stage she had known in her life, and she was, wow, I wish I had discovered all of that a lot earlier. So also the parallel, I think that's probably why she opened with that scene, that it's not only powerful, but I think it also rang a bell for her in terms of her own experience.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that definitely. Yeah. You brought up and so I'll jump to this because it's also talked about in the movie about our bodies and as women. And one of the things I believe, I forget what part of the movie or the film it was, but you were talking about the how you move and how there's an energy and even a sexuality that men are allowed to conduct with as opposed to women. And some of the feedback that you were given was that it was great energy, but then it was too much, I believe, or something. That's how they said it. And talk to me a little bit about that, how you felt with that feedback and what that means, really.
Yes, it was very uncomfortable. At first, I really didn't want to go to that feedback session because I have done so many in my life that I know how negative it can be and out of control. But, Maggie and the team asked me to go, and I was, okay, I'm going to try that. And I'm glad I did because I got very good conversations. And that's when I discovered that the three international person in the committee had voted for me, and who are people whom I admire a lot. And I would not have known that if I had not gone. But with some other committee members, it was very horrible to hear the feedback. And so, for example, when that man told me, like, yeah, it started very well, but then it was too much, it was too intense, and your eyes, it's just too much. You cannot look at people like that. And I'm like, 20 years ago, I would have said, oh, yes, sure, yeah, and felt very bad and take it on me. Oh my God, I'm so wrong. Like, what's happened? What's wrong with me? And then I looked at that person in the eyes. I did not say anything. I stood up and I left. And I was very proud of myself for that, to not smile uncomfortably, to no facial reaction, look at them, leave. And it's something I was very proud of. I've heard also other comments that are very disturbing. And of course, I still felt bad for a while after that. But soon I realized, hey, you know what? They are trying again to put me in a box. Again, they want to format me because they don't know. And they don't even know they are doing it. Most of the times they don't know. But their image of a woman needs to be, oh, pretty, like classic, in the box. But when you think of Bernstein, if you watch the movie Maestro, look at that. I am like 10 times less than that. You're telling me that I am too much and too intense. Go watch Dudamel. Go watch any guy out there. Nobody tells them, oh, that's too much, too intense. But still, for many men who have not had, and women sometimes as well, who have not had bias training, I think for those competition, you need to have bias discrimination training. So people are aware, like you have at universities. When you teach at universities, teachers get this training, which is really good to realize and have a conversation before the committee starts working on things. Because one more time, they tried to control me, to control my body, and to make me feel bad for who I am, which is absolutely terrible when you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a very, I thought, poignant scene. And and as you said, about the energy and the sexuality and how that's not discussed with men, or they're just allowed to do
Yeah.
whatever they want to do, and women are told it's too much or bring it down.
Yeah.
Even I found it interesting, even it's addressed in the film, the clothing choices, about what would look, and I'm sure this follows what you're saying about in the box. Like there's a certain look that they would want you to have. And I noticed for you, you talked about the wearing black, or then you wore the white, and how that was like kind of, you were being a little bit of a rebel there. So talk to me a little bit about that too. Is it a certain package of what they're expecting and you just want to be yourself?
Yeah. My goal was not to be a rebel, but my goal was to be unapologetically myself. And not to try to satisfy people like I've been doing most of my life. And now I'm out of that, and they don't like it. It's okay. Even though, of course, I mean, at that stage, I really wanted to win that competition. Now, 2 years and a half later, I'm like, actually, my path was very fine. But yeah, there is the notion of clothing for women conductors, but not only in conducting, as probably many women can relate to. And that is intrinsically linked to sexuality. Because what I've been told as a conductor, and from women as well, because of course sexism comes a lot from women. It's do not show your butt, basically. You need to have a jacket that goes down so nobody can see your butt, because otherwise they will be disturbed. And so it's basically trying to not provoke sexual thoughts in some audience members, because then they could not refrain of what or and and also, so I need to satisfy a certain protocol regarding my own body. When what if I actually really like that jacket and I'm really proud of my body, whatever my body shape is, and I want to be happy with that and be there. And this is, it's a form of, men can enjoy your body, but it needs to be only for them, and control in terms of sexuality, like you're not too much sexualized. But at the same time, people go to watch Hollywood movies where you have naked people all the time, but yet when you conduct an orchestra, you need to have a longer jacket, and that is very much linked to the energy of sexuality, whereas a woman is supposed to be more passive rather than active. A man is active in the standards or vision of whatever social in society, how we see sexuality. The man is active, the woman is passive. And me doing a lot of motion, having a lot of energy, brings somewhat the vision, the totally unconscious vision, that this woman is active, she's taking another role. And that does not make me feel good. I'm feeling discomfort now. So and it's just because I'm putting those people in a certain discomfortable point, and they also have never had to think how others might feel. And that's where I'm saying training is important. But all of that is changing, and I'm so happy to witness it. But I'm also very happy that me and my colleagues are trying to change things, and that Maggie did that movie where it's shown on the screen and many other women can be, wow, okay, yeah, I remember that person said that to me. Yeah, okay, that's not cool. Or, oh my God, I thought I was the only one, but actually there are a lot more, and I think it's part of opening eyes.
Yeah. 100%. I agree. And I think, it is shown in the documentary. It's not just you. I heard it at least almost two or three other women talking about what they were going to wear, and that it was an interest, like an important choice, I should say. It was
Yeah, and they were all
important.
in black. They were all in black because neutral. Black, you almost don't have a body. It's removing all shapes. It's you're not here as a sexualized human, or as a human even. It's just, you are a shape and you're just doing your job. We cannot think about, she has that type of breast, or blah 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 blah, or arms even. It's not still allowed many places to conduct for women sleeveless.
Mm.
And even for a man, it's badly seen. I've seen some pictures and some comments of men doing that. Um, and I think there is a lot of work to be done in opening minds in that field. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of work to do across the board. So yeah, in all kinds of fields and industries, right? Yeah,
Yeah. And
absolutely.
thank you for being part of doing it.
Well, you know what? I'm especially, you said before 20 years ago you wouldn't be. Well, at 53, I still find myself apologizing too much and justifying too much, but I'm getting much better at saying, go to hell basically, you know.
Yep.
We have to, right?
And it feels good, right? It feels right.
Yeah,
Thank
it sure
you.
does. Yeah. Yeah. That's why I like talking about in my stand-up comedy where I'm at in life at 53, because even that perimenopause, menopause, these are not things that are talked about comfortably, and there's still not answers when women go for help, and we need to be talking about all of this stuff. I don't care if it makes men uncomfortable or even some women. We need to be talking about this. So
Yeah.
yeah. So in the movie, and then we can talk about this as little or as much as you want. One of the parts of the movie focused on your history, your relationship with Paris. So you I found one of the moments really interesting. I think you were talking with Anna, who I believe is from Krakow, and how much she loved being there and her family and all that. And you had more or less said that you had never felt home
Mhm.
really somewhere. And that's sad and touching, but yet I think you kind of more or less said you don't have to find one place as home. But do you want to talk a little bit about that? I know you've had an interesting relationship with Paris, and I know that last time we spoke you did say that you're enjoying your time in America, but let's talk a little bit about what you meant by that, about not feeling home and then returning to Paris, what that was like.
Yes, it was. I think Maggie showed it very well. It's a big part of my trauma, and I've realized that only when I lived a little bit, a few months in America, that actually not all countries are the same. You have that very naive view that somehow everything is going to be a bit the same because it's Western culture and things. But what I now understand is that I've always been someone very creative and different. I've always been out of the norm from a very young age for so many reasons, being physically, my way of thinking, my way of doing everything. And I realized that French society is very much about norm. And anytime you are out of the norm, you're gonna be bullied, very strongly bullied, actually, at all levels. So I was bullied from a very young age, nonstop, for who I was. And then I tried to make myself fit in the mold. So I did fight all of those years of training in Paris, trying to become a conductor, trying to satisfy everybody, saying like they would tell me, do this, do that, I would do this, do that. And then try. But I think my inner self was definitely somewhere else. And that's why I could not be successful there because it doesn't correspond to my nature. Another thing that is typical of French culture is thinking that kindness is a weakness. And I think I mentioned that already, but kindness in America is a strength. And in my heart, in my soul, I always was, I think, someone kind, but I had to develop um, a lot of defense systems to fit in, and which never made me happy. So I was someone extra, plus the abuse, multiple abuse I've experienced in my life, as a kid and as a teenager. So I was never happy, never myself, always in a huge struggle. And when I came to America, I discovered that people would not bully you all the time. Actually, I would not be bullied at all for being who I am. People would appreciate what I was bringing, who I was, and accept me for who I am. and the pouring of kindness, not as, oh, I'm going to walk on you and I'm going to take advantage of you. No, that's not that time of kindness we're talking about. It's a true, true kindness of wanting the best for everyone and trying to be a good citizen and a good human and a good partner. All of that is something that I have learned through my 14 years here. And then it has allowed me to become that person. So, of course, having to go back to France for a competition where I believe it's one, two, three, four members of the 7 committee members or of the 8 committee members were French or work in France. And in a town where I had my training next to the Paris Conservatoire, where I stayed 11 years, where a lot of trauma happened as well, it was working on my head a lot because I know those people will still won't accept me, won't even want to look at me because they do not accept that I'm not trying to fit in the norm, which is a woman needs to be in her box, and just do like those small gestures and, not have being creative, even less intelligent, so it was a lot of mental preparation, but at the same time, I thought, I've not been there for a very long time. Maybe there is a chance, like, yeah, okay, it's gonna work. And and then I was very happy with my conducting session, but the feedback I received was like, oh yeah, actually no, it's not changed. It's exactly the same. And probably right now, if I were to live in France, I would be unemployed
Hmm.
when actually I make difference in people's lives so much in America, So that's kind of, if you're not in the norm, if you are talented, if you are creative and things, they prefer to have you in a cave rather than using it for society. That's why French society is so much declining, because intelligent, smart people, they just want to live. I mean, the country is going south totally, which it totally makes sense.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah, you could see watching the film the struggle that it was emotional for you to be back.
Mhm.
Um the one thing the one scene that I thought I loved was you being so playful when you went to visit. I guess it was your where you used to live. You found your old skateboard, and you were swinging on the swing set and picking flowers in the grass. It was just there was a certain level of playfulness that was just joyful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my parents' home and where I mostly grew up. And being close to nature again, because even though I never felt home, I created my own like space, daydreaming to survive and, to make connections with things that I could make positive connections with. I did not realize that as a kid, but that's what I did. So it means finding joy in other things, and developing those connections.
Yeah. It was so nice to see that. I'm like, oh, that's that creativity, that playfulness. You could
Yeah.
definitely see that. Yeah. It came out for sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So what was it like for you then after you got your feedback and then being around the women and the rest of the competition? What was that like then for you?
On a personal note, I was extremely disappointed with what had happened and had an extreme sadness. Um, but what was amazing was the collective of women, and that, like, Tamara, for example, she had to conduct the day after, and she was so shocked. She was, what? I don't even want to be in that competition if you didn't pass one round. And like, yeah, no, let's go drink something. So we went with all of those women, to of course drink, and I kept saying Tamara, you've got round 2 tomorrow. You need to go get ready. You need to go sleep. But it was that level of kindness, friendship, and um true love where you could find a space where you could express yourself, be it your joy or your sadness, exchange experiences with all of these women coming from different countries who have had different experiences, sharing life stories and sharing a good meal and a good wine. And all of that actually made, plus the team of the movie, which was fantastic to be around, because there are wonderful people as well, with whom we learned a lot, and all of that was like, it stays as a dream, as a very positive experience, when it could have been absolutely atrocious.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you bring up Tamara, and for anyone who watches the film, she's an American conductor, and she was it was cute. She was really enamored with your performance, and she kept saying, "That was one, you're going to be famous." And I mean, she was going on, and I know her face when, they announced who was going on to the next round, and she was like in disbelief because she was really, I think, rooting for you.
Oh yeah, yeah, she was, and that was what was so beautiful about each of us rooting for the others. So even though, I did not pass, then I was like rooting for them and watching some of the videos, and still going with them for drinks and offer support and whatever, if they wanted to talk about a piece, what we were here. And that was very, very unique, and brought us, I think, all of us, a safe space and a feel good space in an environment like a competition is very, overall in arts. It's pretty trauma, it's hard, because art is not about competing, right?
Yeah.
That's the opposite. And we are artists, and some of us really don't like to compete. Some of us just like to create great arts, make a difference in society, without having to compete. And I think most of us don't like to compete, but unfortunately we have to go through those competitions to get opportunities, to get jobs, to get a career, and whatever. But then once we're on the job, we are not asked to do what's happening on a competition. Then to survive on a job, you need different skills, different skill set.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. And you talked about the camaraderie, the collectiveness, which was beautiful. But I think a lot of women who, I don't think you have to be drawn to music to watch this film, and I hope a lot do, because a lot of the things that are brought up in this film are things that women face in every field, I believe. Like Tamara talking about, she wanted to have a child, but she wanted to be a good conductor and a good mother, and could she do both? And it was that like struggle. And then I believe the woman she spoke with was a woman from Ukraine, maybe, who had a child, and who said, why can't you do both? And it was just lovely to watch all of that support, and but the questions and the struggles that like women face, unfortunately, but seeing the supportiveness was really lovely.
Yeah, I think, if society would allow us to be less competitive with each other as women, we could create a much better society,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and with a lot of beauty and a lot of positivity for the earth, even.
Yeah. And less judgment. I think that is probably the biggest key. And I read these things, and it's so dead on. It's like, you're judged if you're married, if you're not married, if you have children, if you don't have children, if you wear too much makeup, if you wear too little makeup, if you wear a long skirt, a short skirt. It's like, in a way, it's like you can't win, because there's going to be a judgment no matter what you do.
Mhm. Absolutely. And most of us try to fit the mold for decades, and eventually some of us realize, actually, let's explode that mold and just be myself and F it, basically. But I wish like I could have had that strength, and or mentor or someone when I was 20 to help me through those discoveries.
Yeah. And I think that's probably something a lot of us, I could say that myself, that we wish we had had that strength sooner in life. And I think younger generations now seem to. I feel like they have a lot greater confidence earlier in life, certainly than I did. That's for sure.
Yes. I mean
Yeah.
it. just getting better, in many ways. So it's beautiful to witness that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the one woman, I don't know if she was a judge, she had the short blonde hair. I forget who she was exactly, but I believe she spoke about you really have to be yourself. Like you have to, and that, and being creative and the passion that you have to be yourself in order to be good at what you're doing.
Yes, she was one of the judges for the preliminary rounds, I think. Um, and she's correct. At the end of the day, that's the answer. And that's what took me decades to realize is you're gonna be good and only if you're yourself. And good is a goal, but actually what you've reached is happiness. And of course, when you're happy, you're good. But I think we are too much focusing on the goal, which is a job, which is being good. But the journey is how we feel, and feeling that happiness and that playfulness is actually what brings us to be ourselves. And I was for decades thinking I need a job. I want to be good conductor. And that was not the answer. The answer was, Melisse, keep going to therapy, and Melisse, keep discovering things and being yourself.
Yeah. And I would say, is it fair to say you're happy now? Yes.
Oh, yeah, I have so much joy. Yeah, I am myself. Um, yeah.
Good, good. And I know you last time we spoke, you said you really are enjoying well, you became a citizen, so obviously you are and you're enjoying America, which is wonderful.
I love America. It's my home. And I know I'm being asked almost daily, where are you from? Because of my accent. And I would invite the auditors, by the way. I know often you want to ask the question when you hear someone meet someone with an accent where they're from, but try to think that that person gets that question multiple times a day, and it does not feel good all the time. Even if it's done with a kind heart, it's just feeling to justify all the time. Or, yeah, actually, I was born in Paris, France, but I'm an American citizen and I love it here. And I've had a few people who, first of all, don't ask me about my accent. I'm like, yes, that's amazing. Or turn it in a way, in a way that is so accepting and less curious or inquiring. So I'm sorry here for the speech, but I needed to say it because we don't think about that. But when even you want to be nice to someone and show interest, yeah. Oh, wow, what is that beautiful accent? Where are you from? But you need to think that if I could change it, I would have changed it. I can't. So every day I have questions of people. Where are you from?
I think sometimes it's not, and I'll speak for myself, it's more sometimes it's just curiosity and almost like novelty, and that sounds like it's trivializing perhaps, but I was guilty of that this weekend. I went to a yoga class here in Pennsylvania, and the woman was like, oh, you can I'll take your money, and like I forget exactly what she it was. It's like, oh, come on over here, I'll take your money. And I was like, oh, hi. And I had to ask, are you from England? I forget how I phrased it. It wasn't meant to be judgmental or anything. And I told her outright my goofiness. And I said, oh, I have a good friend who used to live here. She moved to another part of Pennsylvania, but she had a coffee shop. And she used to yell at me for always saying things about her lovely accent, because she would say, I'm not a monkey with symbols. Like she didn't want to be told. I said, I just love the way she said holiday and weekend. And so the girl was lovely because she's like, yes, I'm from the UK. But so I'll apologize on many people's behalf because we're enamored, I think, to some degree.
I mean, seriously, I know I understand it, and I know it's not done meanly spirited. But yeah, it's good to hear the other point of view as well.
Yeah, I had to say it. I'm like, I'm so sorry. But yeah, my friend used to say, okay, I'm not a monkey with symbols. Like,
I like that. I might use it.
because I was like, oh, I just love the way you talk. And she's like, okay, enough already.
Mhm, mhm.
Well, before we move on and wrap up talking about what's coming up for the Northeast Philharmonic for my local listeners, was there anything else that you wanted to say about the experience as far as La Maestra or the filming of the competition that you gained from it, or any insight that you would just want to share with us?
Um, Well, watching yourself on a screen is not easy. I'm not an actress. And the first time that Maggie, she called me and she said, I'm done with the film and I want to come to your place in Iowa and show it to you. So put a few friends together and we're going to watch it together. And then I was in connection with my friends, and she was not going to see my friends, the other subjects. So I was okay, but it's something interesting. And then we watched the movie, and then I realized, oh wow, I'm very center and of the movie, and I'm very much opening on topics that are very personal and difficult topics. And I'm very thankful that she did that she came to my place and showed it to me. And it's been a work for me because we didn't know what they were doing with us. We had no say in what the documentary would be like. So we had signed that paper that we are waiving everything basically. And but the team, then I realized talking to Maggie and other people on the team that the movies that transform my life, the documentaries that transform my life are documentaries where I can relate to others and others' vulnerabilities, people who are opening, and the humanity of subjects as well. And then I realized that she was able to make the documentary as me being vulnerable, me opening up on topics that a lot of men and women can relate to, even though they are still not really talked about in society. And without giving any spoilers, but I think it's important to know, and that's why also that movie is not about conductors and music. It's about every one of us living our lives. Like topics that are mentioned are sexual abuse and family violence. And they are very pervasive problems in society that need to be exposed through documentary because, for example, if you have watched, or if some of you have watched the Joan Baez documentary, which is amazing, was released about the same year and is on Netflix as well. She also opens up on sexual abuse and family issues, which you don't see it coming through the documentary, but it's so powerful. And I met with her and I talked to her about that experience. And it was so helpful for me to know, oh, this very high level artist has gone through a lot of very similar things that I've gone through, and her coping with things is also through arts. And then you can relate and be stronger, feel less lonely and things. So I would say that for me, and the number of messages I'm receiving from people I do not know, I've never met, through social media or through my website, long messages, beautiful messages, or people I know of, and that thank me for opening up on that, and share how much it's moved them, what their own experience has been. It's a very unique experience that feels very right for me. I like to in my art to impact people and to make a difference in society. And I think by being vulnerable in front of the cameras and opening up about those very untold topics, and the use that Maggie has made of, which is so respectful, not judgmental, very, very delicate, helps also make a difference in people's life overall. That now it's showing on Netflix. But it's definitely topics that I hope we can talk more in society, violence in families. And I know it's not a happy topic, but it's also a topic, or sexual abuse. Those are topics that the less we talk about it, the more it happens. And we need to find ways also of safely talking about that, and because then more victims will realize, because they will hear about that, will realize, okay, it's not right, and I can do something.
Yeah, I agree. She handled it very delicately because there could also be like a salaciousness that there wasn't, or a pandering for emotions. It was very well handled, as you said, very delicately. And I agree 100%. And I love what you said about these things. We need to talk about them. I was watching part of a show about Jewish comedy and people talking about Jewishness basically, and some were doing jokes about the Holocaust, and they themselves were Jewish. And Sarah Silverman, who is a comedian and is Jewish, she said what she said was lovely and important. She said it was like, if we let things sit in the dark because they're difficult topics or they're strong or negative topics, something really evil happens, then that festers if it's in the dark, where we need to, they might be uncomfortable to talk about, but we need to bring them out into the light so that we can normalize at least the conversation about it. And I think that is true and so important.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
and it requires some strength for people who do that, but there are more and more women speak up, and that's going to help us all at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to thank you, Melisse, for talking with me today. And thank you for for allowing them to film you, because it was lovely to watch. And I think you're just a delight. I really do. I want to thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Janine. Yeah, thank you for everything. And you have to thank Maggie for the movie, which I know you've done, and I hope that many of your audience can listen to that, watch the movie, and yeah.
Yes, it's available now. Although, is it still on bingeable? Because that does benefit. Yeah, so that's great. And I'll put the link in for that. I mean, yes, I know if you have Netflix, it's easy to watch there, but you can actually rent it for, that's how I watched it. I believe it was $10, and you're helping support a program that supports the arts, music for children, for young people in America. And that's really important. So I think that's worth
Yeah,
paying the cost for sure. Yeah.
you
So
have
as I'm
ours.
sorry, go ahead, Melise.
Now, if you have $10, yeah, go on bingeable.
Yes. Yeah, it's a fair price, and you're definitely helping a wonderful cause. We need music. Music is healing. It is life, I believe, like so many of the arts. So let's wrap up by talking about what folks, I know I have listeners well beyond Northeastern Pennsylvania, but the you conduct, of course, in a couple places, but Northeast Philharmonic, which is here in where I'm located, Scranton. We've got some fun stuff coming up, I believe, November 3rd, a matinee performance, and then we have holiday stuff in December. So, what would you like to say about that or share about that?
Yes, so we have on November 3rd, we're doing a matinee concert at the Scranton Cultural Center, and it's going to be a great program if you want to bring your family, or if you're elderly and you don't like to travel at night. That's a great opportunity to go enjoy a wonderful orchestra, because our orchestra is amazing. And we will have music from Carmen, as it's going to be the 250th anniversary of the piece early next year. We will have also a wonderful violin soloist playing a concerto by Lalo. And that's so impressive to hear and watch a soloist on stage with the orchestra. And then we are playing the Symphony Number 5 by Sibelius, that the musicians, and I adore, they were so excited we are doing that. So we really want to share that piece with you as well. Probably you don't know it, but come check it out. Then we have the very, very beloved Holiday Pops concerts. There is one in Wilkes-Barre on December 7, and the one in Scranton on December 8, where we have dancers, we have singers, and it's a lot of the best holiday tunes that you want to enjoy with your family at that time of the year. A few other shows that you might be interested in, you can check our website, of course, but we have a huge concert with choirs. It's in Wilkes-Barre, and it's April 25, and it's Carmina Burana by Carl Orff, which is a piece that everybody knows. Boom, pa, pam, 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 boom, boom, down. Chun, 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 boom, boom, chun, chun, chun. So that piece, come check it out. And finally, and I know you already have tickets, Janine. because it's a special day for you and your family, and it's on June 7th. We have Tina Turner tribute at the Mohegan Sun Casino. And it's going to be music by Tina Turner. It's going to be absolutely amazing.
I cannot wait for that. That's very exciting. But everything sounds wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And I had heard really good things about the one you had in September, I believe was all Queen music. I did not get to go to it, but I heard it was fantastic.
Oh, that was amazing. We had some young people from Marywood University being the choir, and they're unbelievable. Like, it was so good. The people loved it. They were dancing. It was very crowded. Great time. So, come have a good time with your friends, with your family, and also help, arts organizations in town.
Yeah. Yeah, as I said at my comedy show last week, I said I thank people who come out because, no shade on any performers that are like Taylor Swift. I mean, they had to work hard to get to where they are, but the local folks need your support as well. It is so important to us. Yes, you can go ahead and spend 300, 500 on those things once a year if that's really a goal. That's wonderful, but please remember to support local artists, local musicians, local performers, comedians, painters, all kinds of the arts, because we really do need it and we appreciate it and it means so much to us.
Amen.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you again, Melisse. Again, this has been such a pleasure. Of course, I'll probably reach out to you in the spring just because I like talking to you. So we'll
Okay,
have to we'll have to think of another topic I could talk to you about.
Okay. Merci beaucoup, Janine. Let me know if you come to a concert, okay?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, you
Let me
take
see
care.
if I see this right. Je vous en prie. Oui.
Oui, exactement. C'est correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I want to thank my listeners as well. This has been a wonderful conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. Please check out the show notes. Maestra is streaming on Netflix, but you can also rent on Bingeable and help out music programs for the youth in America. And next week, be sure to listen because I will have a recorded tarot card reading. My friend Michelle is reading my cards again. She did that about 2 years ago, and she was kind of right about a lot of things. So this will be interesting. So tune into that. That'll be for Halloween, something a little bit fun. And as I always say every week, I really do appreciate you. If you're interested in sponsoring this podcast, please reach out to me. I have Emily Hickox of Budget Through Life. I'm so proud and pleased to have her sponsoring my podcast because she helps support this kind of content. So if you would like to help support it, please reach out. Otherwise, you can also help out by sharing. Tell a friend, foe, or anyone you know, listen, write a review or testimonial, or hey, just reach out to me and let me know you're listening because sometimes that's enough just to hear, hey, someone's listening. I appreciate that. So, as I always say, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass.